welcome to another edition of Divine War Ninjutsu Podcast. I am Shihan Jason Steeves for the June 2018 edition of the podcast. This is episode number 11, and today we have again with us Dai-Shihan Phil Legare, who's living in Tokyo, Japan, and it just so happens that he's available today for another interview. This is not connected to the last one we did, and is not a continuation necessarily. It is independent. He just happened to be available, so we have him here. Please welcome Dai-Shihan Phil Legare. Go ahead, sir.
Awesome. So what are we going to talk about today? Geez. So it's morning here in Tokyo, and a beautiful day. The weather's starting to get nice in Japan. So if you're planning to come over anytime in the near future, just to let you know that rainy season has not quite started yet. So it'd be a good time to come to Japan. It's not too hot, not too cold. Unfortunately, Hombu is extremely crowded this time of year because everybody knows this is probably one of the best times to come to Japan for training, at least weather-wise. We just had the cherry blossoms, and if you're not familiar with when that happens, it's always the end of March, beginning of April usually is when that happens. And this year, weather's been a little bit warmer, so the cherries came out about a week earlier than had been anticipated. But as beautiful as that time of year is here, when the cherries pop out, it's really also a horrible time if you have allergies. So we start off with, I think, cedar pollen in February, and then in March, you get the cherries and the plum trees all popping out, and then right after that is the cypress trees. Their unique pollen comes out. And this year we had they call it yellow dust off the Gobi Desert, winds off the desert in China, or the Gobi rather, Mongolia, send dirt and dust and pollen and whatnot, debris this way. So this year was pretty bad for all that, and if you're like me and kind of suffer from some allergies, it can be a tough time of year. Just wanted to mention that to you in case you're thinking about coming over during the cherry blossom season, or just before, just after it. So right at this moment, that's all going away, and the allergens are starting to dissipate in the air, but they won't be totally gone until the rain hits us in what we call Suyu, or the rainy season, monsoon season. So you can probably hear a little bit in my voice. I've got a little bit of, you can maybe tell I've got a little bit of the allergy stuff going on with my sinuses right now. So good time to come though, because of it's not too hot, not too cold. But it is very crowded in Hombu. We've recently had a lot of Argentinians show up, a bunch of Spaniards, a bunch of folks from Germany coming in. So it's the kind of the usual rotation. But it's nice to see Juan here from Argentina. So I keep getting emails and calls and instant messages, and see it on Facebook pop up all the time about memberships. I don't really know why this is happening. Well, I guess I do know a little bit about why it's happening, but it's very frustrating for me that it continues to be a topic of discussion, and that some people have not really figured it out or understood what it means. In December, Hatsumi Sensei said there will be no more Bujinkan yellow card memberships. That's the 2,000 yen yellow cards that you would send in for and get, and therefore your students who are, or you or your students who are below the rank of 5th Dan, right? Or not a Shidoshi, not a Shidoshi or Shidoshi Ho. Shidoshi Ho stopped a couple of years ago. He's not been issuing those anymore that I know of. We put that out quite a while ago that they've stopped. So the only memberships that we had were the annual yellow membership card for below the rank of 5th Dan, and then the Shidoshi Kai membership card, which was a 15,000 yen a year membership fee for anyone that had passed the Godan test. And that one was meant to show that you were a Shidoshi in good standing and you could order promotions and whatnot, patches and all that kind of stuff from Hatsumi Sensei at the Shidoshi price. That's what the Shidoshi Kai card was all about. It was to recognize that you are a Shidoshi or instructor in good standing in the Bujinkan and that you could get promotions. For example, instead of paying a member price for a Q rank or something, you would pay a Shidoshi price for a Q rank. So if you look in the rules of the Bujinkan, there was something in there about Shidoshi. Only Shidoshi can get the Shidoshi price from the admins from Hombu on promotions and patches and things of that nature. And that we were supposed to charge double to our students. So if I promoted someone to 9th Q, I could get their blank Q certificate for 1,500 yen from Hombu because I was a Shidoshi in good standing. And I could turn around and sell that or charge my student 3,000 yen or say $35 for that same promotion. Right. And then that's the same for Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, Yondan, whatnot. So you were allowed to charge and actually encouraged to charge double the Shidoshi price for any of those promotions. And the reason you're encouraged that is so that there wasn't dissension within, say, the Bujinkan, like, Phil doesn't think that's fair, so he just charges his students, $16 for a $15 promotion or something like that. And then somebody else is charging like $40 for a promotion. And then students get to talking and, well, I had to pay this and I had to pay that. So in order to kind of keep it level playing field, it's okay to put out the blanket. Well, you should be charging about double. And this gets to be pretty pricey when you're talking about, say, 4th Dan. Because 4th Dan is 20,000 yen for the Shidoshi price. So that means I would be charging $400 for that promotion normally. But then they go down, right? So when you pass your Godan test, up until recently, Godan all the way up to 15th Dan were the same price, which is 30,000 yen or about $300 US. And it's kind of a unwritten rule that you don't say I give the Godan test to somebody and they pass and I get their Godan certificate. I'm not going to charge them double the cost for that. Or if I promote somebody to 8th Dan or 9th Dan, I'm not going to charge double the 30,000 yen cost. So, because at that point, at least in my mind, you are a Shidoshi at that point. When you pass the Godon test, then you are, for all intents and purposes, a Shidoshi as well. And so for me, I always just charge the same price, the Shidoshi price. Now, what I do is for people that I get promotions and things for them, if you out there listening are somebody that actually sends me requests for promotions, like, Phil, can you pick up these 20 Q grades and can you get a Shodan for me and blah, blah, blah. If I'm getting that for you, then I will charge you the Shidoshi price plus 20% of whatever that is. So if it's, say, 10 Q ranks, that's 15,000 yen, which is the Shidoshi price. Then I would charge you an additional, say, 3,000 yen on top of that. And that's for my time and effort, me to actually go to Hombu, get those things for you, and then turn around and mail them back to you. So that is how things have worked over the years. And that was the reason behind having a Shidoshi Kai Menkyo, or Shidoshi Kai Menkyo, and then a Shidoshi, I'm sorry, let me restate that. Shidoshi Menkyo, not Kai, but Menkyo, Shidoshi Menkyo, and then being in the Shidoshi Kai. It was telling Soke, hey, thank you for allowing me to continue to be a Shidoshi in the Bujinkan, and here's my annual membership fee so that I can continue to get the membership, the Shidoshi price, right? So that was the idea behind that. When Sensei decided to not do that anymore, it kind of caused a lot of confusion, right? How do I prove that I'm a Shidoshi in good standing? So it's kind of the same it's always been. You're supposed to send in a copy of your Godon certificate, not your Shidoshi Menkyo, but your Godon certificate. And if you can't find it, then your Shidoshi certificate, because technically you would have gotten them around the same time. And that's the reason for that, is because that's how you're categorized in the books. You're prioritized by book, by what year you took the Godon test. And also, if you took the Godon test in Japan, you're in one place, but if you took it outside of your Japan, you're also written in another location, another book that is just for people that pass the Godon test outside of Japan or not in view of Hatsumi Sensei. So if it couldn't get any more complicated, right? These are paper books, scrapbooks, basically, that Sensei will glue a picture of you the admin will glue a picture of you into the book and write down your information, your address, where you're from, and when you took the Godon test, that kind of thing, in this scrapbook. And then that's how you're categorized. So say you took a Godon test 15 years ago, you're in the book for whatever year that was, or a couple of years that was. So sending a copy of your Godon certificate or Shidoshi Menkyo, if you can't find your Godon certificate, there's a date on there of when you took it or when you were awarded it, and that date corresponds to what book you're in, and the admins can find it. So if they see, it's 6 June 2003, then they'll go to the 2003 book and flip through till they find kind of the June, March, April, May, June, and then they'll find your picture hopefully in there, or your name written in there, and they'll be able to identify you as someone who is at least a Godon. And generally what they do in there also, if I say recommend you for ninth dan or 10th dan or whatever, they will go to your place in the books and they'll write down on this day, 2018, the individual was promoted to Judan or ninth dan or whatever. So there's a kind of a written record. It doesn't happen every time, but generally that's the way it's supposed to work. So if I'm promoting one of you that are listening to a ninth dan, then I want a copy of your Godan certificate to send them, the admins, and I'll have a copy of my own Godan certificate that I send to the admins. So one, they find me in the books and go, oh yeah, Phil's a legitimate Shidoshi, so he can get the Shidoshi price. And number two, you are, okay, you're above the rank of Godan, and we can annotate in the book that you are now a ninth dan, right? So in a kind of a pre-digital age way, this is how Sensei, who doesn't trust the internet, by the way, this is how he keeps track of who's promoted and when. It's not a without errors, right? And unfortunately, I've been there in the office, and it's taken maybe an hour to find somebody in the books this way. For example, one of my student friends, White Eagle, his name was spelled one way in the way I spelled it when I went to go get his promotion. When I went to give it to the admins, we spelled it one way. And looking at it in English, they looked it up and couldn't find it. And that's because in the books, they spelled his name a long time ago when he passed the Godan test, spelled it a different way. And it just we didn't have the date of his test readily available. Well, actually, I think we did, but he took the test outside of Japan, and that was the critical information. That and the name was spelled differently, and so they couldn't quickly find it. So it took probably about 45 minutes to an hour to find where his name was properly recorded. And when they found it, they just quickly changed it so that it could find it in the future. But that's a typical thing, and that's when that happens every single time. The admins work on somebody's promotion orders. There's going to be one in that order that they just can't find, or somebody that day they just won't be able to find them, and it just takes forever to go through the logs this way, and manually. You can say, wow, wouldn't it be nice? Why can't, since I go into the modern age, wouldn't it be nice to automate all that and just have a spreadsheet and that kind of thing? Yeah, so this is a guy that does not trust the internet and does not trust computers, doesn't want to put anything in a computer, doesn't want to automate anything. And, that's what we have until that changes, until the next soke, I guess. That's the way we have to do it, and we have to respect soke that way for that. And this is another reason for the confusion of no more memberships, right? Because since they told us explicitly, do not tell people over the internet about this. Let them find out word of mouth. And you see that just wasn't going to happen, right? So if I just tell people word of mouth, then when I see them, or when they actually come to Japan and they find out about there's no more memberships, well, what do you think they're going to do until they hear that, right? Word of mouth, people are going to send in for those memberships, which is exactly what people did. People continue to send in for memberships because they either didn't believe that there were no more memberships, or they wanted to be the last one to get their membership card, or they didn't hear that was the case. Of course, you have people send in for membership cards maybe starting in October, November of last year, which, trying to get early for the new year and be respectful and all that, which is cool. What do you do about them? Well, Sensei back in October, November was sending out membership cards, I think. And the kind of the funny thing was that Mark saw this was that towards the end of the year or the beginning of the new year, there was no stamp to go on the membership cards for the good for 2018, right? The little stamp that they usually would stamp the yellow cards with. So there were yellow cards left over, but they were blanks. They weren't stamped with the new year, right? Because there was no stamp. And so Sensei said, well, I don't have a stamp, so I'm just not going to have memberships anymore. Well, he still had some of those member cards. And so some of you maybe listening have gotten your 2018 member cards, but they were blank. They just weren't marked with the year because he doesn't have a stamp in Homebrew. And Sensei was, it was very frustrating for me because he's telling me, nope, no more membership cards, tell everybody. And then I'm telling everybody, and then, oh, by the way, we found 25 cards, so we sent them to so-and-so. They're blank, but instead of sending that person's money back for the 25 cards, we just didn't say there's no more cards. We just send them these blanks, and then they can fill it in and give it to their student. So that kind of thing has happened a couple of times, at least, that I know of. And so it's kind of frustrating when you're being told there's no more member cards and make sure everybody knows about it. By the way, word of mouth, and which I'm doing today, by the way, right? This is word of mouth. I'm just using a computer to do it. And then he turns around and they send member cards out to a select number of people. And so you probably sitting there drinking your beer, listening to me yammer on about this, going, well, how come I can't get my membership cards then? If he's sending them out to some people, why can't I get one? Right? And why shouldn't I go ahead and send in for them? And, I guess that's a valid idea or thought that I certainly wanted to have one more Shidoshi Kai membership card just to show that I've been a member of Shidoshi Kai since 87 until 2018, right? Uninterrupted, got a card for every single year. And why not have one more, right? I mean, Sensei's still around. So it's kind of frustrating for that, but that's the way it is. So there are no more yellow cards being given out by Homebrew from Sensei that I know of, unless they find some more blanks and the admin just decide it's easier to mail the blanks to the individual rather than send their money back to them. You may have one or two cases like that may have been happening. Unless it's that, then there are no more member cards. So please don't write Sensei and ask for memberships and tell him, because Phil said you got some blank ones left over, so please send me some. Please don't do that. I don't know if there are any blanks left or not. I suspect the blanks that were left over, that were surplus, have all been given out by now. So the no more memberships and then no more Shidoshi Kai. So how do you prove that you're a Shidoshi in good standing when you're ordering promotions is kind of an interesting thing. You got I thought, wow, that would be one reason to keep a Shidoshi Kai membership card, right? But those of you that are Shidoshi, remember, you never really had to show it before anyway. The only time that I ever recall having to show my Shidoshi Kai member card was going to one of the luncheons, one of the Shidoshi Kai lunches, right? Some of you may recall that most of those were Shidoshi only, and you had to show your card, at least in the last few years, you'd have to show your card in order to be able to attend. With the new year, Soke said there's no more Shidoshi Kai, no more Shidoshi Association or members of a group, a Kai. You're just Buyu. We are all part of the Buyu. So he disbanded the Shidoshi Kai as a member group and said he wants everyone to consider themselves in the Buyu, or martial arts fellowship. And you see on the screen there's a photo of me receiving the Buyu Show Award, which was the first one that Soke gave out, and that was in March. Actually, on March 11th, anniversary of the Fukushima incident, and saying that I am the first Buyu Show, or the first one to receive this Buyu Show award, and it signifies that there's no more Shidoshi Kai, no more Shidoshi Association. And Soke went on. You can probably watch the video. The video's out there of me receiving that award and what Soke said about it. And the reasoning behind that is that he doesn't want to have an elite organization within the Bujinkan anymore of Shidoshi only members. He wants the Bujinkan to be for everyone, not just senior people, not just Shidoshi or whatever. So he wants the gatherings, the parties that he has every couple of months to be all inclusive, to have everyone, green belt, white belt, whatever, be able to attend that. If you've got a Bujinkan patch on your gi, if you're training there at Hombu, you pay to train at Hombu, train with him, then you should be able to go to the lunch or go to these parties. And that's kind of his idea of how to rebuild or create a more complete community in the Bujinkan without requiring you to be a member of said group. So if you look at it that way, you could be a member of a below the rank of fifth dan, or you could be a member fifth dan and above of that group, right? But there was no evidence that you're a member of both, or you could be all inclusive, right? They were stratified. So Sensei just broke that paradigm. He decided that in his last couple of years as a Soke, he wants to make the Bujinkan for everyone. And if you recall me talking about this quite a while ago, Sensei was saying that the Bujinkan is for everyone, and the training at Hombu is going to focus more on the junior grades and not so much on the senior rank people in the future. And this is kind of evidence of that. The Bujinkan itself, the membership has gone away, and the Bujinkan itself is going to focus on everyone rather than on just one group. I can't say that the training has changed very much in Hombu, other than a couple of pieces of artifact. He has started to have somebody do warm-ups now. Prior to him arriving at Hombu, somebody will do the warm-ups generally, or when sensei arrives, he will have somebody do warm-ups for the whole dojo, everybody present, for the first few minutes. And he's made a comment that warm-ups are very important and should be, I won't say that it should be Kihon and the Sanshin, but that's the idea. And in fact, I've done it a couple of times. And Sensei likes that, seems to like that I do the Kihon or the Sanshin as a warm-up before he starts. He's also had, I've noticed somebody like Tezuka will get out and he'll say, show three things. So he'll show three variations of one, say one technique. He'll do it to the right arm. He'll throw the person down using the right arm. Then he'll do the leg. Then he'll do the left arm or something like that. So he'll sort of show three variations of a similar technique. And he says, that's good warm up, right? And so everybody just practice that as a warm up. So that's kind of interesting that he's doing that lately. And he's also shown some things that I would kind of consider like really basic, like how to draw a sword. He spent a lot of time showing the Susui-san, Takumi-san, the Jiraiya actor, how to draw a sword, how to properly draw a Japanese sword. And then he went on to show how to make it dramatic, for TV and stuff. But he spent quite a bit of time just showing basic draw and a basic strike with a bow and with a long bow, and then how to turn your hand over with the bow. Like we're going, wow, this is pretty basic, and I wonder why he's just showing us how to twist with the bow for so long, or draw a sword for so long. And the only thing I could think of is he's trying to teach everybody that you look around the room and see that there may be some green belts in the dojo that need to get this training, and he'll show it. So the warm-ups and then showing some basic things during training are two artifacts that indicate to me anyway that training is he's trying to make training a bit more inclusive. So no members, no Shidoshi Kai. A couple months ago, he was saying that there are Dai-Shihan in 55 countries, and isn't that great? And the Dai-Shihan are allowed to do their own membership for their own groups in their own countries or whatever they want to do on their own. That is somehow been misconstrued by some people to mean a Dai-Shihan in country X is going to charge membership fee and even a Shidoshi Kai fee for people in their group or their country or their continent, and somehow that's a hombu, that's a Bujinkan membership or a Bujinkan Shidoshi Kai membership, and with the kind of an illusion maybe that individual is going to give sensei the money or send that money to sensei and somehow be recognized. I just can't believe that. I just can't believe how that can go over, how that will work. Let me again reiterate, and probably the people listening that are dialed in right now don't have this problem or misconception. You guys probably understand this. So I'm probably preaching to the choir on this, but hopefully the word will get back to those who are misconstruing this or have this misunderstanding. There are no more Bujinkan Hombu membership, period, memberships. There are no more Bujinkan Hombu Shidoshi Kai memberships, period. Sensei would like to raise a whole lot of money to leave a legacy behind for a museum or something. That's not what memberships are supposed to be for. If you're collecting memberships in your own country, don't put those two together. You may have heard him say, "Yeah, I'd really like to raise a bunch of money to build a museum." So if you're a Dai-Shihan in a foreign country or in whatever, and you want to have your membership for your group, so Ishizuka has a membership for his organization now. He's the only Japanese that I know that is doing that. If you want to join Ishizuka's dojo and show that you're a life member in his group, fine. And if he wants to then take the money that he raises from those membership, from charging a membership fee to be in Ishizuka dojo, and he wants to give that money to Hatsumi Sensei for whatever purposes, for a museum, that's fine too. Great. Knock yourself out. But what has been made explicitly clear, and even by Ishizuka, is you don't have to be a member in his group to train in Hombu. You do not have to join his association to still receive training in the Bujinkan. And in fact, I think you can even go to his class and not be a member, right? He will not turn you away as long as you pay for training. So that's as clear as I could make it. For the Shidoshi Kai, there's one group that I know of. It's one Dai-Shihan is saying, "Hey, be a part of my Shidoshi Kai association in Europe." Since they didn't explicitly say no to that, what he said was Dai-Shihan can charge their own memberships. So technically, that individual is welcome to have his own group of instructors, members within his organization. It'd be like, I guess, me saying, "Oh, Takasegi, if you're in part of my Takasegi group or want to be affiliated with me, and you're a Godan or above, then pay me $150 and I'll give you a cool looking membership card and you can be a part of that. You'd be a part of the Takasegi Shidoshi Kai. You're not a part of the Bujinkan Shidoshi Kai. You would be a part of the Takasegi Shidoshi Kai if I were to do something like that." Is there value in that? I don't know. I don't see any value in that. That's why me personally, my Takasegi group, no, we don't have a member card. We don't have a Shidoshi association affiliated with that. If we did, I would charge you $1,000, right? No, just kidding. I don't see any value in that, right? Maybe someday after Soke's gone, depending on what happens to the Bujinkan, would I see value in having members? I don't know, maybe, but certainly today I don't see any value in that. And the very fact that Sensei disbanded the Shidoshi Kai in favor of a Buyu Kai should tell you, and others listening, or should tell anyone, that maybe there should not be a Shidoshi Kai anywhere. I don't it certainly would tell me that, oh, Phil, okay, there's no more Shidoshi Kai in the Bujinkan, so why don't you go ahead and create your own Shidoshi Kai? No, it's not a vacuum that I need to fill. It would tell me that Sensei doesn't want to have a Shidoshi Kai. He doesn't want to be exclusive or exclude other people, and he wants to create a Buyu. So why have a separate elitist member card or member association, right? That makes a lot of sense to me, to not go around and then create another one, right? When he has just disbanded that. And so it's maybe, I don't know, I'm not that smart. I'm not sure why I'm the only one on the planet that gets it, but, and I'm ranting and raving right now. It's kind of like a Don Rowley. I just don't understand why people don't get it. And I'm continually amazed when I get emails or notes from people saying, geez, are you saying that I don't have to be a member in a Shidoshi Kai in order to still get promotions? Or are you saying that do I have to belong to some other Dai-Shihan's group in order to get promotions or to train in the Bujinkan? Like, no. So I don't know how much clearer I can be on that. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute, see if there are any questions. I will take any remaining questions you may have about this whole membership thing before I move on to anything else. You know, there are no such thing as dumb questions. Well, actually, there are dumb questions.
If people are not Bujinkan and say they're training in a different style altogether, not related to ninjutsu, can they still come to the Honbu in Japan and train there?
Why not? Why wouldn't they? We've always been able to have people from other groups come in and train in the Bujinkan as long as they pay the fee and they know where training is. I mean, somebody's going to probably have to show them where to go, and they'll have to figure out what time training is, right? So Nagato has trained BJJ guys in the past, and I brought people in. Actually, I brought people in BJJ to Bujinkan classes in the past myself. Got one of my top guys here, Brian McComb, is a Krav Maga instructor, and he teaches Krav Maga once a week here on base. He also trains in the Bujinkan, so yeah, not a problem. In a different art will uh, maybe not understand or appreciate the training as it's being presented now because it's generally at a fairly high level, and Sensei's still doing that one finger thing, and we're talking about control, which I'll talk about a little later, which is not something that people that train in another art are really going to understand or see, or quite frankly, see the value in. I mean, just look when I put a video of Nagato up doing something cool at Hombu, and you get some of the reactions of people that aren't really Bujinkan going, "What the hell is that? Bullshit jutsu or something," right? It's hard to see the value unless you're actually training in it for a while.
So do we still get our Menkyo from the Honbu Dojo in Japan?
Yes. And that whole thing in the beginning I said about the Shidoshi price, that's still going on, right? And there's a new price list. I have put that up on our page. The Shidoshi prices are the same with the following exceptions. The Shidoshi Menkyo that you get when you pass the Godan test is no longer 10,000 yen, it's 20,000 yen. That's a separate Menkyo from your Godan certificate. So your Godan certificate is still 30,000 yen for 5th degree black belt. And then the new price for the Shidoshi license one time is 20,000 yen. 6th Dan through 9th Dan and 11th Dan to 14th Dan are still 30,000 yen. Same prices they've always been. 10th Dan is now 40,000 yen. It's no longer 30, it's up to 40. And 15th Dan is now 50,000 yen and no longer 30. In years past, up until now, all those promotions, 5th Dan all the way to 15th, were 30,000 yen. And I have seen a charge for Dai-Shihan certificates, but those typically be whatever Soke decides. They're a donation.
Do you have to be a Shidoshi? That is, for those listening that don't know what that is, a Shidoshi is a 5th Dan or above. So do you have to be a Shidoshi in order to teach Bujinkan?
Technically, yes. And technically, you have to be a Shidoshi in order to give rank in the Bujinkan. But some of you may remember there used to be something called a Shidoshi Ho, and I was one of those way back when. I was a 3rd degree black belt, had not passed my Godan test, and I was teaching. I had my own little dojo, and so I was given here we go again with memberships. I was given a Shidoshi Ho license. That was an actual Menkyo. And then I paid my annual Shidoshi Kai membership fee for the 1 or 2 years that I was a Shidoshi Ho before I passed the Godan test. What do we have today? We don't have anything that replaced the Shidoshi Ho. What would be the purpose? Are you somehow learning Bujinkan from somebody who's not a Shidoshi? Or are you learning it over the internet? Or do you have a Shidoshi who is supporting you? That would be the right way to do it. If you're not a Shidoshi and you run your own little group, or you're training in the Bujinkan and you're not at a Shidoshi level, you haven't passed the 5th Dan test, then who are you training under? Unless you're living here in Japan, then your answer would probably be a Shihan or Dai-Shihan or somebody in whatever country you're in who is your sponsor. So technically, yes, you could teach, you could train. You can't give rank, but you should be under someone, or at least under the guidance of someone. Boy, I could go on and on with that one. Okay.
Do you know how many Shidoshi there are in the world right now?
No clue. Thousands. That's why it'd be kind of hard for me to understand somebody training in the Bujinkan that's not either a Shidoshi or training under the guidance of someone who is a Shidoshi. In the 80s, yeah, it was common. And in fact, that's why I was able to teach. I was teaching in the Bujinkan. My teacher was Daron Navone, and before that, Larry Beaver. And Daron wasn't there, right, to give me daily guidance. He just gave me or authorized me to have a Shidoshi Ho so that I could teach on my own and get promotions on my own without having to go to Daron, to Israel for them. But those days are kind of over. I don't know. There's not many places left in the world where a Shidoshi of some sort is not fairly readily available. Cool. All right. What's next? I think I'm supposed to talk about control or something, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so the duality of control is one area, and then there was going to talk about four ways of control. So duality of control, I mentioned this I think last time. Sensei talks about this quite a bit. He shows various ways to control the opponent, and then he turns around and he says, but if you're so easily, he's talking to the uke, but if you're so easily controlled by me, then you're going to die. So the duality, I mean, in this context is learning how to control an opponent, but also learning how not to be controlled by someone, by an opponent. And we always seem to be reinforcing the idea that our uke has to fail every time, right? In the Bujinkan, the uke is always generally the junior person, and they're throwing a punch, and then you're doing a technique, and you always win, right? And if you don't spend an equal amount of time with your students, teaching them how to win as an uke as well, then this could be something that's subconscious to them and could possibly come out in a stressful situation or a fighting situation where they would lose, right? Because it's weird, but things come out under high stress that you just wouldn't believe. And it's not, we learn this in military and law enforcement. You have to train your people to succeed and create a good memory, a strong memory of success when doing something. Otherwise, if you create memories, you're constantly creating memories of failure, then that's going to come out when under a high stressful situation, say in combat or something. So I kind of said this, coined this phrase a while ago. I think I might even wrote something about it. Don't train your uke to fail, right? It's kind of a catchy thing, but if you're an instructor, spend time with your students, teaching them not only how to succeed when they're doing a technique, but how to succeed, how to properly punch somebody, how to properly kick or attack someone, right? You need to spend time. I mean, we used to, back in the day, spar with my students. We would teach each other how to spar and how to take a punch to the face and all that. And then some of you guys probably have your Shodan test, maybe a long period of time of fighting a whole bunch of people, right? And that's training your uke how to succeed, right? How to win in that situation. So I don't think we spend enough time to do that. And Sensei has been pointing this out recently to his people that jump up to punch at him or try to stab him with a knife or cut him with a sword. And he does something so simple to them where he's using like one finger to unbalance them and to take them down to the ground, or he'll capture them with saki or something. And he'll turn around and say, unless you figure out how not to be controlled like that, you are going to die. So he's specifically been pointing that out to people. And on a physical level, you see it, I see it, as people attacking Sensei and they're way off balance or on their tippy toes when they don't hit him. They're overextending themselves and they're not correcting that, right? So I'm kind of on that kick now of, if you're going to punch me, if I'm demonstrating a technique, if you're going to punch me and I move out of the way, before I actually do something to you, you need to recognize that you've missed me and reset your balance and either pull that punch back or start to pull it back or redirect it, right? Or that sword cut. Oh, geez, I missed Phil. Don't cut all the way to the floor and hold the sword there. Only cut part way through, say to the shoulder level, and realizing that, oh, I moved And then you want to start to naturally redirect your sword to cut horizontally towards the direction that I moved, right? Those are the kind of things. Correcting your punch, correcting your kick. It's like, remember in the old days, like hold that kick out there. Give me a minute to get the technique on you. Okay, keep holding it out there. Well, that's wrong. And Soke doesn't need that to look good. He doesn't need you to hold your punch out there or your kick out there forever. He doesn't need you to be totally off balance to begin with in order for him to show a technique or to look good. He's pretty darn good on his own. And so he's now pointing that out to people that attack him. Hey, you're off balance. Hey, look how easily I can control you. With one finger, I can control you. If you don't figure that out, then you're going to die. So that's the duality of control. Control and not be controlled. Now, we're doing this thing where Sensei takes the knife away from somebody or takes the sword away from you while you're holding it. And it's the easiest one is to see, to understand, I guess, is with the knife, because most people aren't going to come at you with a sword today. But an uke will attack with a knife. They'll miss, and then they'll wait for Sensei to do something to them. And Sensei will do, let's call it a technique to them. And then magically, somewhere partway through it, the uke will let go of the knife, and Sensei will have it in his hand. So we've noticed that there are about 4 kind of ways for this to happen. And the easiest one to recognize or to see is if Sensei makes you lose your balance and you think you're going to fall to the ground. This came out with the skipping stones thing. Your hand will naturally want to open a little bit. It's an unconscious thing in order to take the fall. And so as you're starting to fall to the ground, typically what most people do is open their hands to try to stop themselves, right? And put their hand out. And typically when people fall down, they slip on ice or something, what gets broken? Their wrist. And that's because you put your hand out and try to make a stiff arm when you fall to the ground, right? It's an unconscious thing. If you train in the Bujinkan, it may come out that you'll want to do a break fall when you lose your balance. But that's not always the case. Depends on how often you practice doing break falls, and there's a lot of factors involved. How caught off guard you are when you're falling, right? How long it takes to fall. If you're able to get your wits about you before you hit the ground and then go, oh yeah, I should be break falling, right? Those kinds of things. So that's one way of control, is unbalance your opponent, your uke or your partner. And at the point of imbalance, you may be able to just pull the knife out of their hand or take the knife out of their hand, because they're no longer focused on holding the knife per se. They're focused a little bit more on getting their balance back or falling to the ground or something like that. And with the skipping stones, we found that if you start to take somebody's balance, then in their mind, they're thinking, oh, I need to step to the left in order to get my balance back. And in that thought process, they're not thinking about holding the knife or the gun or firing the weapon. We know this in PPM. You get someone to say something or to think of a response when they're holding the gun on you, they can't, it's not physical that they can think to pull the trigger and also think of a response, right, to answer you back with. So you've got to be that no mind state in order to kind of pull the trigger. If you're actively thinking of something else, other than pulling the trigger, then you're not going to be able to pull the trigger or hold the knife in this case. When you're just not going to be thinking of, oh, okay, I got to maintain grip on the knife while I'm trying to get my balance back, while I'm wondering, what is he doing to me? All those things going on in your head. So taking the balance is one way of control. Creating pain somewhere. Mechanical compliance, right? Or pain, rather, through pain. So if I were to do a koshi grab to your tricep while you're holding a knife on me, as that pain goes through you, depending on how you feel pain, if you feel that pain, then you're going to probably forget to hold a knife for a second, right? And then there's an opportunity for me to control you and can take the knife away from you in that regard by if I put a finger in your eyeball, you're probably not going to be thinking so much about maintaining a good grip on the knife and cutting me as opposed to, oh shit, that hurts, right? And maybe wanting to put your hands to your eye or to make the pain stop in some regard, right? Attacking me in a different way. There's the getting the attention is a third way of controlling someone. Maybe that's staring at you with intention, or maybe that's making a funny face and you're going, oh, what is that all about? Or maybe that's putting one finger on your hand. I'm getting your, and that's what Sensei does a lot of. He'll put a finger on you. And he'll touch your wrist, or he'll touch the back of your hand, or he'll touch a finger. And so he's getting your attention to that specific shiten, or that kaname, that one point that he's using. And that focuses your attention there and less of on what you're doing, on trying to cut the individual or cut Sensei. And then he can, when you're focused on that, what is he doing with that finger, right? And your attention is drawn to that finger, or what is Sensei going to do next, which is what a lot of people think or thinking of. They're not thinking of holding the knife or cutting with the knife anymore. So that's the third way, getting the attention of the opponent. And the final one would be non-physical and sort of like attention, but it's a saki. Using intention and as a way to control the opponent. And the easiest one that I can describe for you that you probably all can understand would be Godon test. You know, there's the way to pass the Godon test is to relax and let the person giving the test move you. But how are they moving you? Are they moving you like physically? Okay, maybe you can hear it. You could hear the sword coming down in time, maybe. Typically, no, you're not able to really hear it in time. You can't see it because you're faced away and you should have your eyes closed, right? You can't feel it because if you feel it, then you failed the test, right? You've been hit, right? You don't pass a test by being hit and then moving out of the way, right? So what is that? And that is a non-physical or saki, intention, spirit, luminosity, energy, ki, whatever you want to call it, whatever way you want to describe it that makes sense to you. It's a non-physical way. And Sensei does this all the time with people like Shiraishi. You know, Shiraishi can't ever cut him. And it's probably because for 50 years, the only thing Shiraishi's ever known is it really hurts when he tries to hit Sensei or cut Sensei. So he gives up and chooses not to actually cut Sensei or hit Sensei, right? And so what is that? That's memory, something, but let's call it Saki. And he'll actually move his fingers a certain way now and do that. And then Shreshi will try to cut him, like draw a cut with a sword, and he can't cut it. Even Sensei moves towards him, he can't cut him. So, at the risk of being bullshit dough or whatever, as you see on YouTube, you see the old master not touching somebody. The recent one I saw was some Indonesian guys blowing on somebody, one of his students, blowing a breath on them, and they can't stand. They fall down. It was kind of a weird, but maybe he's got bad breath. But at the risk of looking sort of like that, we know that the Godon test is something non-physical. So that's the fourth way to control. Taking their balance, pain, attention, getting their attention, and then Saki or non-physical. Those are 4 ways that I've noticed of how you can control someone and what Sensei is focusing on now. So control someone in one of those 4 ways or using all those, and then not be controlled. That's the duality. So if you're ever punching for your teacher, don't remain off balance. If they move out of the way, I'm not telling you to actively fight your teacher or the person showing a technique. I'm telling you, make sure you don't stay off balance. And what I'm doing with my partners now, I was doing this with Brian in class the other day, was whenever somebody's doing the technique to me, say Sensei's doing one of those finger things, as I'm going through the technique, I am looking for my own escape. I'm looking for ways to not be controlled by my partner. I'm looking for my own gap or opportunity to jump in and control them. So it's kind of funny. I found that when, say, I'm thrusting with a knife, and then my partner is doing whatever Sensei shows as a technique. And at some point in time, their hand comes down to my hand, and my hand opens up, and they're going to take the knife. I find that that's a good opportunity for me to grab them as well. So my finger may be exposed, or fingers may be opening up or be exposed to them grabbing it, but that also means they are also exposed or vulnerable for me to do the same exact thing. So I'm looking for those ways of turning the tables, if you will, while still being a good uke and giving my partner a good opportunity to train. I'm also training and not just go on blank mode and let them do whatever they want. So that's something that I would encourage you guys to play with. Mark and I do this with the Tenouchi thing. We'll get into a good grip with the sword or the knife, and then as the other person is doing the technique that Sensei shows on us, we'll re-grip and we'll make sure our grip is really strong. And then we found, okay, you've got to unbalance me now to break that grip or cause pain or get my attention in some other way or maybe a non-physical way in order to get me to release my grip on the sword or the knife. You lose that will to live kind of thing. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Those of you that are seniors should, I'd be interested to hear what your observations are if you've come up with some of the same ideas or conclusions of training and or doing it yourselves, or if you go back and try this and what your feedback would be. All right. The next Buyukai will be on 6 May. I put a picture up of there's a little yellow or a white dry eraser board now next to the little chalkboard. in Hombu. The chalkboard has, who's teaching what class on what day, what night. But now there's a little bitty dry eraser board, and they put up. My assumption is it's going to be another 5,000 yen, and it's open for anyone. Not okay. No more. No more. Will it be just for Shidoshi? And I plan to attend. At least now we're getting almost a month's notice of when the next one will be. The first one was kind of funny. I found out about it on Tuesday night that it was going to be on Sunday, that Sunday. And I just happened to go to Tuesday night class. And since they said, "Oh, are you coming to, or no, I'm sorry, it was Friday night class. Are you going to come to Sunday?" And I'm like, I hadn't planned on it. I'm running a race with Joanne. "Oh, you have to come." I'm like, "Why?" "Well, you need to be there." Like, okay. So I had 2 days notice, and I had to race to get there. I ended up was able to make it um, because the Buyukai was after training, so we were looking at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I was able to do the race with Joanne, and then hurry back and shower and then go to training. I missed half of training, but I only had 2 days notice of that one, and I was actually the guest of honor for that, I guess, if you will. I got the Booyah show that day. That was what the whole Buyukai was supposed to be about. Sensei talking about what the Buyukai is in the future and giving me the Buyuh Show award. So it's nice now that there was a little board up and there we're actually able to give people a month's notice. I know I've already had people go, "Oh, well, I can't be there then." I'm like, well, that's he'll have these probably every couple of months, and hopefully they'll be announced ahead of time, with enough lead time for people to maybe change their trip and stay or come over later in order to attend or earlier to attend, something like that. But this won't be the last one. And I believe he'll have these probably every other month or so maybe every couple months. He'll have maybe the next one after that. You can probably think will be what, July or August. So if we hear about it ahead of time, we'll try to make sure everybody knows with as much notice as possible. At the next Buyukai, he may say, "Okay," and then the following one will be in such a month. Not sure. I probably won't be here for the next one after that. So I retire and leave Japan probably the first couple days of July.
Do you do much filming when you go to the different classes there in Japan? Any updates on the possible Taikai in the US? Any updates on why isn't that recording? Hello, hello. Any updates? Hello, hello. Test, 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 test. Test.
Put it up on the website. What I can't do is make that available to anybody, like on YouTube or publicly available. As long as it's on a private site like that, where you have to subscribe to be able to see the video, then he's okay with me filming training. And Nagato Sensei, for I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, has allowed me to film him specifically for the website. What I usually do is I give him a CD every year or a DVD of all the stuff I've filmed of him throughout the course of the year. But he's allowed me to do that, and up until recently, I'm the only one that he's ever allowed to do that. So I don't want to take that for granted, and I don't. For example, I don't ask Sensei, "Hey, every single class, can I film you?" No, it's just maybe a couple times a year I'll ask to film him. And Nagato, I'll try to catch his class at least once a month to film what he's got going on, what he's teaching that month. So take advantage of it. We'll ensure this keeps going after I retire, and if I move away, we'll make sure this continues. We still have access to Nagato Sensei and to Hatsumi Sensei to film, even if I'm not here. So take advantage of that. What I find is what the feedback I get is that people that are subscribing to our website use these videos as inspiration or as something to, let's click on what somebody's doing now, what Nagato's teaching this month, and let's try that in our class, right? You may be the dojo leader, right? And like, oh, that looks kind of cool. Let's do that double punch thing. Let's try something along those lines. And so it's good reference material and or inspirational material. And late last year, we put up the Kionhapo and the Sanshin. And you may recall that this is a requirement that Sensei has on any 15th Dan, has to be able to do the Kionhapo and the Sanshin correctly and on call, on demand. And there was the question of like, well, which Kionhapo and which Sanshin, because many people learn different versions of it. And through the decades, that has changed. The Kionhapo and the Sanshin have changed incrementally as well. So depending on when you started your training, the Kionhapo and the Sanshin that's being taught now is maybe quite different than what you learned way back in the day. And we found that people just naturally consider the Kionhapo and the Sanshin something that's very basic and maybe you should do as a green belt. Maybe not something you want to do as a senior person or continue doing unless you're just maybe teaching it. And we found that that's wrong. You have to be able to do this, and Sensei requires to be a 15th Dan, you have to be able to do it perfectly. And as I've said before, Nagato, Noguchi, and Seno all looked at my Kionhapo and Sanshin and said, "Yep, that's perfect. That's a great way to do it." So having been giving the kind of license to that mine is a good version, right? I videoed that, and this is what I teach at Hombu as a warm up. And even Sensei has watched me do Kionhapo and actually saw me do some of the Sanshin just last week, and approves it. So that's on the website for you to see. All right, so I retire, and we'll probably be leaving here early July, maybe the first week or so of July. And I think we're going to maybe do a whirlwind tour around the Asia Pacific, maybe hit Australia and New Zealand before we go back home. I'm not sure, or we're going to hit Hawaii or then go back home. And I'm not sure where that's going to be at the moment. We're still trying to figure out if we're going to be back in the Maryland area or somewhere else. I will be retired, but my wife has to keep working for a few more years for the government. So we're going to go wherever they send her next. Right now, that's looking to be Maryland, but it could be somewhere else. So we're just not going to know for maybe another month for sure where that's going to be. Having said that, I'm going to have a lot of free time on my hands, and I really would like to get out and see people. And I would like to do some seminars, kind of welcome back type seminars to the States. I've lived over here again this time for 3 years. So I would ask you, maybe folks out there in Europe, America, wherever, Australia, who are dialed in, South Africa, if Jason, you're still up, have me down or have me out. Let me know. Let me know if you want to have me come do something and I can start planning that now and get that in the schedule. I'd love to get back to Canada. Haven't been to Vancouver in many years. Other people go there, but I haven't been there anymore in 4 or 5 years. So I'd love to get back to Canada. I know I'm going to come down and see you, Jason, later in the year. But what about North Carolina? What about Australia? What are places that I'd like to come out to see you guys? So shoot me a note if you have a group or if you have would have some interest in having me out. I'd love to come see you.
Any updates on a possible Taikai in the U.S.?
Nope. I've stopped asking Sensei about the Washington Taikai. He 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 will bring it up to me when he wants me to do it. So I was asking him probably once a month for the last year and a half, 2 years, actually 2 years now. And when he said, let's do it in 2018, I've asked him for dates and he just can't give me a date. And the last time he said he didn't know, right? But he reemphasized it's not if, it's just when. And now that Oksan is in a nursing home, he really can't commit to a date until something final happens there to get some closure there. So she may hopefully she's being well taken care of in a nursing home. She may be there for quite a long time, right? And he's just not going to be able to feel that he's able to leave the country while she's in a home, right? So it really sounds bad, but she's going to have to pass away before he's going to be able to commit to doing a Taikai somewhere or leaving the country. And obviously I don't want that to happen. So I've just pretty much stopped asking, for that reason. And funny, he's coming to our party, my retirement party, and to get in where we're having it is a military hotel in downtown Tokyo, and you have to have an ID to get in. And I asked him if he could bring his ID when he comes to the party, and he says he doesn't have one. I said, what about your passport? He said, oh, that expired a long time ago. So if he were to do a Taikai, he's going to have to get a new passport. and I did not say that to him, but I think he understood that he would, so he's not gotten a new passport, so he's not thinking about going to Taikai or going out of the country anytime soon. So he's allowed his passport to expire. So that's another data point that tells me we're not having a Taikai in this year anyway. So I think the earliest I could probably have it would be about this time a year from now. And he did say the last time we talked about it, April would be a good time to have it. And I think that would, coincide with Takamatsu, the anniversary of Takamatsu's passing, maybe around the 2nd or 3rd of April, maybe next year, whatever weekend date would be around there. So if I had to say, that would probably be the earliest that I could actually host it.
Now that you're retiring, what's next for your personal protection measures?
Well, I'll have plenty of time now to get Sentinel International going full bore. I'm going to focus more on PPM and maybe a little less on Bujinkan, although I'm obviously not going to stop the Bujinkan training. Kind of see them going hand in hand, especially since they gave me the Menkyo for that I do PPM from the Shinken Gata Menkyo years ago. So I don't see them being all that different, right? I want to focus more on developing instructors for PPM. We've got about 21 of them now, 22 instructors. That's not very many. So if you would think of like the Bujinkan, how many Shidoshi do we have in the world? Thousands, right?
I know you use the term PPM, but a lot of people may not know what that is. So could you explain what PPM is?
Personal Protective Measures Program. That's the Sensei gave me a Menkyo Kaiden in Shinkengata back in 1995 and asked me to and validated the training that I had put together to teach government people and military when they travel to high threat countries. This is basically a self-defense type program, personal defensive program. And he validated the program and gave me a Menkyo Kaiden in order to teach it, because at that point in time I had people that were going to have to teach it themselves or train in it that weren't in the Bujinkan, and so I needed a mechanism to be able to certify them, if you will. And so since they gave me a Menkyo in that and said, yeah, go do what you want with it. You're now the soke of that, if you will. And so from those humble beginnings, teaching it for government and the military, back in 2007, almost, I guess about 12 years after that, in 2007, I started to teach it for the public, not just military or government employees. I further developed the program to be a public program or a public course. And since then, have had 22 instructors certified to be able to teach the basic course. So PPM 1 is the basic course. It's all self-defense or defensive in nature. And it's, it goes everything from talking about different types of violence and giving you basic self-defense movements to full scenario-based training. When presented, when you're knocked down to the ground, how do you fight your way back off the ground? Defend yourself while on the ground. Defend yourself from impact weapons. Defend yourself from edge weapons. Firearms, multiple attackers, a crowd, how to survive a crowd, a mob, right? How to get through that, those kinds of things. You saw that picture of Roy Miller and Dan Ryer and myself. Those are kind of poses for how to get through a crowd or when you're confronted with potential violence. Dan is in the Dracula's Cape position, right? How to get through a crowd or multiple attackers as best you can while protecting your vital areas. And then Roy and I are in too. He's in more of a confrontational position, and I'm in more of a looks like there could be violence getting ready to happen. Let me get my hands up and close to be able to use them. So these are three kind of postures that we emphasize in various parts of PPM. So there's PPM 1, which is all defense, and then PPM 2, which takes more advanced defensive concepts, but also it has an offensive component to it. So if you take the knife away from somebody, how do you use a knife? Or if you happen to be armed with a knife and multiple attackers come at you with a impact weapon, or how do you use an impact weapon to your advantage if you pick one up off the ground and you're confronted by a mob or something of that nature? How to use a flashlight, firearm retention. And then we have a PPM for defensive handgun and defensive shotgun as well. And then, so we have PPM 1 and 2, and then unarmed and armed to include handgun and shotgun. We have a lot more capability, capacity to teach long-range precision marksmanship and things of that nature in Ready 5, another group that I'm affiliated with, and that I've allowed to also teach PPM. And I'm planning to focus mostly on my Sentinel International and company, and rolling out PPM, more traditional uh, PPM, out to a greater audience.
What rank do you have to be in the Bujinkan to partake in your PPM program?
Nothing. There is no Bujinkan equivalent or rank in order to be able to get into PPM. You can do it so the PPM is different in that regard. It's not a rank dependent thing. Uh, you If you want to be an instructor in PPM, you have to come through the program no matter what rank you are in any martial art. You have to come through it as a student first. You have to take it as a student, then you have to pass the practical exam. And on the practical exam, I'm really looking, if you want to be an instructor, I'm looking for you to keep your, not so much proficiency. Well, you do have to be proficient. You have to be able to do the whatever we teach, but looking for you mostly to be able to keep your cool and keep your head about you, and not freak out when you're presented with a scenario, right? Because it is just training. And if you pass that, then you can join in assisting, be basically an uke, if you will, for another instructor to teach several courses, to assist them in teaching it. And then when you feel you're ready, and whichever instructor is helping, guiding you along, feels you are ready, then you take the lead role in teaching a course yourself. And one of the certified instructors, will be your uke and be your assistant. And then we rate you, we evaluate you on how well you do that. And then I sit down with the potential instructor at that point, go over all the material verbally, and make sure there's no questions or there's no gaps. And then when I'm satisfied with that, then I certify you to be able to be an instructor. And then once you're certified as an instructor at whatever level, you're allowed to teach that course or those courses uh, all by yourself, and you don't owe me anything for that. You do that on your own. Certainly, if you want people to help, we'll help you, but you can do that all on your own, and promote it or push it, teach it however much you want to, or how little you want to. And the only thing is an annual recert. I have an annual recertification or refresher training for the instructors that I require that they go through. If you just want to train in it, then find one of the instructors. I think Brian and Brent are getting ready to do a PPM1 course, a short course, and just join in. I'm hoping to get down to North Carolina and certify Carl Cope to be able to teach PPM at sometime this year. I think he's the only one that I know of that's like currently on the docket to certify. Yeah, so that's the cool thing about PPM is we use Mark McCune and Roy Miller and other people who have kind of gone before us and or gone alongside. Actually, I've been doing this for about 40 years, but we will learn from others and incorporate some of the best practices that other folks have developed over time with their permission, and incorporate it into our program. That's why I think PPM by itself is, or PPM itself is a premier program. One, because I have tried and tested it with the government and military for a long period of time. I have thousands of people that have gone through the actual protection program, and we've seen the value of it. A number of people have survived attacks and violence using the principles of PPM. And also, we continue to make ourselves better by joining with other folks who are very good at what they do, and seeing where uh, their concepts and principles work best with what we're doing. So yeah, great. And encourage you to attend that webinar if you're interested in violence and learning how to counter it. Make yourself, give yourself a little more confidence and make yourself a better, stronger person. And my goal is to develop as many people to be sentinels, guardians as possible. Give you the proper training, and so not just to defend yourself, but you can go out and defend others. And that's kind of the goal. And that's really the Buyu. That's a Buyu Kai, being a community of good people with good hearts, helping each other. And that's, getting back to what Sensei is trying to do in the Bujinkan as well. Assess, plan, act.
When Hatsumi Sensei retires, will we still get ranked through him?
Why don't you ask that question when he retires?
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. That's all for today. Thank you, Dai-Shihan Phil Legare, for joining us as well.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that I've been able to answer all those questions that you might have about membership, Shidoshi Kai, and control, and what's going on here in Japan.
Awesome. Thanks. See you later.
Yep. Cheers.